Welcome to this Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Hello.
We're tackling a pretty interesting question today, looking ahead quite a bit, actually, to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Specifically, we're looking through the eyes of some absolute Springbok legends, Jean de Villiers and Schalk.
That's right. And, there's surprising optimism about France.
Exactly. You've brought us source material covering their views, and our mission, really, is to dig into why.
Yeah, why these guys, respected figures who know what winning a World Cup takes, often against France, why are they forecasting such big things for Les Bleus years out?
It's a great question. And this deep dive is built just for you, pulling out the key insights from the material you shared. Now, before we really jump into their reasoning, just a quick reminder. Make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
Yeah, it's the best way, really, to catch every deep dive into the rugby world.
Okay, so let's unpack this optimism. The core prediction, it seems, from both de Villiers and Burger is, well, pretty clear.
It is. They see France as a potentially dominant force, maybe even the biggest contender for that 2027 title.
Which, thinking about it, might seem a bit counterintuitive for some listeners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially thinking back to 2023, the World Cup in France.
Yeah, where the hosts, they got knocked out in that incredibly tense quarterfinal.
By the Springboks, the very team these guys played for, that 29-28 match. Oof.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you might expect a bit more caution maybe, but instead we're seeing this strong, forward-looking optimism.
So what's behind it? What's compelling is why they feel this way.
Well, the source points to a couple of key pillars for their view. First up is France's recent dominance, particularly in European rugby.
Right? They won the most recent Six Nations title, and the source described it as being in stunning fashion.
And that wasn't just winning the title, remember. It included that huge statement win against Ireland.
Oh, yeah, over in Dublin at the Aviva. That's one of the toughest away trips in Test rugby.
Definitely. So it wasn't just scraping by. It was winning convincingly against a top side on their own patch.
Okay, so strong international form. What else?
Well, beyond the test arena, they highlight the incredible sustained success at club level.
Ah, the top 14 effect.
Precisely. Bordeaux Bagels winning the Champions Cup recently, that wasn't just a one-off. It actually continued this remarkable streak. 5 consecutive wins in the Champions Cup for top 14 sides.
5. Wow. 5 in a row. That's not luck.
No, absolutely not. It speaks to a real systemic strength in French club rugby, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And I guess that strength, it feeds directly into the next big point, especially from Jean de Villiers, the sheer depth they're building.
Yes, depth. He specifically mentioned the playmakers, the crucial 9s and 10s.
Okay.
De Villiers lists names we all know: Lucu, Jalabert, Dupont, Nitamac, Legarec, Ramos.
Some serious talent there.
Absolutely. But here's the striking part. The phrase he used was 3 sets of 9 and 10s that you can select.
3 sets. Did he really say 3?
That's the quote, 3 sets.
That's just incredible depth. It's not just having a great starter and, a decent backup.
No, it's suggesting 3 distinct pairs at scrum half and fly half who are all genuinely test quality options.
For a World Cup campaign, thinking about injuries, form dips, that kind of depth in those key decision-making roles, that feels like a massive advantage.
It's huge. It's a level of choice and quality that most other nations, frankly, can only dream of.
So it's this depth, combined with that recent success, that leads de Villiers to his pretty bold prediction.
Yeah, his conclusion that France might just be the biggest contender for World Cup winners 2027.
Very high praise. And Schockberger, he's on the same page.
Pretty much. He echoes that optimism, agrees France is definitely heading in the right direction.
What does he add to it?
He reinforces the points about the European club success, but adds another crucial layer: what France is doing at the U20 level.
Ah, the pipeline.
Exactly. He points out they're consistently producing top talent there. So this isn't just a golden generation, a flash in the pan. It suggests a really robust system feeding into that depth we were just talking about.
Okay, so it's sustainable. Not just the current stars, but a conveyor belt.
Right. And Burger's take is, when you put all these pieces together, the club's success, the U20s, the current depth, they are, in his words, building up to something special.
Right, something special. Okay, but this depth, this potential, it's about to get a serious examination, isn't it?
It is. And the source brings this up next. France's upcoming 3-match test series in New Zealand against the All Blacks.
Doesn't get much tougher than that. Classic tour. Historically, it really sorts the contenders from the pretenders.
And the twist here, the expectation is that France will likely field a, let's say, weakened side for this series.
Right. Because of the top 14 schedule.
Exactly. It comes down to what Burger calls the system. The French domestic season runs long, clubs pay well, and they often hold on to their key players.
Hmm. Limiting availability for these kinds of tours.
It's just, as he puts it, unfortunately the system.
So, on the face of it, that sounds like a big disadvantage.
Yeah.
You're going to the hardest place to tour, and you can't take your best team.
You'd think so, but Berger actually spins this, finds a positive angle.
Oh, how so?
He argues that this situation, forcing more players who aren't maybe the first choice guys into these high pressure tests, it actually helps build even more depth in the long run.
Ah, I see. Giving valuable, tough experience to a wider group of players. Blood diamonds, sort of?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It broadens that base of players who face top-tier international pressure. So instead of just a negative, it's reframed as an opportunity to build resilience and experience deeper down the roster.
That's a really interesting take. And despite knowing they might be weakened, Berger still has confidence.
He does. He makes a specific prediction for the series. He thinks the French side, even potentially a B side, will scare the All Blacks in at least one of those games, keep it really close.
Wow. Okay, that says a lot about the perceived quality of that depth.
It really does. To go to New Zealand, possibly under strength, and still be expected to seriously challenge the All Blacks, that's a powerful statement about French rugby right now.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. What does it mean for you, our listener, who's really into the game?
Well, these insights from de Villiers and Burger, they aren't just off-the-cuff remarks. They're identifying this powerful combination of factors.
Right, you've got the exceptional depth, especially those three sets of playmakers.
Then the sustained top-level success in European club rugby.
And that consistent pipeline from the U20s.
Exactly. They see these as foundational strengths positioning France really strongly for 2027, perhaps even more important than, say, their result in the last World Cup quarterfinal.
Or even the challenges of touring with weakened squads because of the top 14 schedule.
Right. It really highlights how these guys, de Villiers and Burger, view strategic depth and that whole system strength, youth, club, international, as key indicators for future World Cup success.
It definitely raises some fascinating questions for the next cycle. Like, how much does having three sets of quality 9s and 10s actually make up for players being held back by clubs?
Yeah, and is the experience gained by that wider group on tough tours like this New Zealand one actually more valuable long-term than having the absolute top squad together for every single match?
These are the kinds of strategic layers that make following the build-up so interesting.
And we genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you buy into de Villiers and Burger's prediction for France in 2027?
Yeah, what stands out most to you from their reasoning? Is it the depth, the club success, the youth production line? Let us know.
Definitely share your opinions.
And while you're thinking about that, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a perfect time. Hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession so you don't miss any more of these deep dives. We do them just for you.
So just to recap, the key takeaway from this source material, despite that 2023 quarterfinal heartbreak against the Bucks,
Yeah, feels like a while ago now, but still stings for them, I bet.
Springbok legends Jean de Villiers and Schalk are actually remarkably optimistic about France's chances in 2027.
And they're basing this on tangible things. That incredible depth, especially the three sets of 9s and 10s.
The phenomenal consistent success of their clubs in Europe.
And that strong flow of talent coming through from the U20s.
Right. They even view potentially tricky tours, like the upcoming one in New Zealand, which tests that depth, as actually being beneficial for France's long-term development.
It paints a picture of a rugby nation really building towards a peak, systematic.
It is a very comprehensive picture.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to mull over, building on this.
Mm-hmm.
If domestic league structures, like the top 14, continue to limit how much time key players spend together in the national setup outside the main windows, can the sheer advantage of France's talent depth, the very thing de Villiers and Burger highlighted, be enough to overcome potential issues with, say, team cohesion and fine-tuned preparation when the World Cup actually rolls around?
Or does that lack of time together, that cohesion factor, ultimately become the bottleneck, no matter how much individual talent you have on paper?
That's the big strategic question for France over the next couple of years, isn't it?
It really is, finding that balance.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening to this Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
Make sure you are subscribed, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.